Welcome. You're listening to Sons and Kings, the Psalm 2 show where we unlock the church's ancient battle cry of divine filiation and embrace the gentle kingship of Christ through the riches of the Christian tradition. Happy Tuesday. Let's begin. Welcome back. We're continuing our discussion of verse 1 of Psalm 2. As always, here with Lewis and Pat. How are we doing?
Hey, Jake. Surviving.
Hope you survive better. All right, so just for everybody, refresher, verse 1.
Why have the Gentiles raged and the people devised vain things?
Nice. So if we think back to the last episode, at the end of the last episode, we were talking about some kind of like wishful thinking, some of that things that we meditate on, even in a very vain way, and just how, like, in a sense, how dangerous that is, even for our own souls.
Yeah, and I think about, one of the things that really, I was super convicted when I discovered that there's actually a sin of curiosity. You always think of curiosity or kind of like, just kind of thinking about things that it's pointless or useless or scrolling like endlessly or like Googling random information about tax rates in the early 20th century. Like you think about these things as like, oh, it's harmless meandering of the mind. But St. Thomas Aquinas actually reflects on this as a sin, a vice, the sin of curiosity, where you're thinking about things and spending time reflecting on things that are not useful for your state in life. They're not useful for your flourishing. It's an intellectual habit that's not going to lead to really you living the life that God's calling you to live. And I even think about that, like, and even in the Old Testament, you go into the commandments where you like, thou shalt not covet. Like, why was that so important? And the covet is like an internal, it's kind of like a mental reflection on things that aren't for you. And I think you can kind of go all the way back there for the roots of that. And I think about how often we struggle with that in concrete things, right? Whether it's just spending so much time binging something, a show. It's okay to like watch a show, but like when we're really binging and just like just feeding the curiosity, like,
yeah, because we got to know what happens next.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what's driving you, is like, I gotta get to the next. And it's like, it feels compulsive because it is. And that's not reason. That's not what God's calling us to in terms of our flourishing.
Yeah, I like how you put that. And, if you think about curiosity as the intellectual vice of, being dragged into a million different directions, well, I think he also says that studiousness is the corresponding virtue. Aquinas says that. And I guess that maybe the parts of studiousness, which is funny because in our culture, curiosity seems like a virtue and studiousness seems like a vice, actually, is the way people talk about that, But it's really the opposite, that studiousness is directed towards the proper goal. And I think it's defined by the virtues of order, which says, okay, I know what my goal is. I'm going to arrange everything towards that goal. And intensity, which pushes us towards that goal, and constancy. And I think curiosity in particular strikes at constancy, which is constancy is the virtue of, sticking to the task at hand. And curiosity is always dragging us in a million different directions, right? Whether you're scrolling or, you wonder, oh, I wonder if that person's still alive. Let me look that up. These random facts that have no bearing on your life, but distract you from what's at hand. And we need instead to mortify our curiosity, to say, this is not a good thing for me to have. What are ways we can do this? Maybe, don't always look things up when you're curious about what they have to say. Then you're going to be less likely to try to be thinking about those things next time. Or when you're walking down the street, well, do you need to read every billboard, or can you just keep walking? Or when you're waiting for someone, do you have to pull out your phone and be entertained at that moment? Or can you try to be thinking about the rest of your day and what you have planned? All of those practices mortify curiosity and help us grow in constancy, so that when we do really want to stick to a task, which just shouldn't always be our goal, well, we're ready for it when it comes.
I think about this idea of knowing yourself, because like I think about myself like Zillow. Zillow is a dangerous. You can see the price of every house in your whole metropolitan region, and but all these apps and all these things that like technology does is like literally just information of like floods of information that just it's such a danger for us to just get lost in the floods of information. And there's a good thing, like a good way it can be used, which is why like I love San Josemaриa's quote, like an hour of study is an hour of prayer for a modern apostle. Like study is so needed, like learning useful information, and we have more capacity for formation and learning useful things than ever. But if in an unrestrained, disordered fashion, like if we're not approaching it in some type of a consistent plan for ourselves and consistent, like, um, yeah, just way of handling it, like we'll get lost and we will not benefit. We will not flourish. Like maybe it's something like, hey, I love reading about like a certain topic, like, or I need, like maybe for my job, like there's a realm where I need to get some professional development. Like build out in your day, like I'll do 20 minutes of like professional development reading a day. I'll do 15 minutes of spiritual reading a day where I'm getting formed in my faith. Like these practical ways of ordering time. So it's not just like, because even with good things, like I think about myself, you can get in a rabbit hole about good things. Like you can get in a rabbit hole, like if you're an accountant, I'm not an accountant, but like you could be an accountant and get in a rabbit hole in theology that's not relevant for your life. And like it's disordered how you're approaching it. And you kind of jump from book to book. Like you start reading one book, then you leave it, you read another. Like even that can become a disordered curiosity about good things. But the way you're doing it is actually what is the disordered part.
I like this essay by Simone Weil titled Reflections on the Right Use of School Studies with a View to the Love of God. And in it,
Very nerdy.
yeah, it's beautiful. And it's very studious. And in it, she talks about the need to not, a student in school shouldn't have favorite subjects. Instead, he should be open to all the subject, our work in all the subjects hones his virtue of constancy. And that virtue of constancy is ultimately expressed. The reason we cultivate it is because it's the virtue needed for contemplation. That when we're doing prayer, it's so easy to be drawn away from the current task, which is in conversation with to be in conversation with Jesus. And if we train our curiosity to be mortified, and we train our constancy to be sticking to the task before us, then that will aid our prayer so much that we can actually see stick to this conversation and not be distracted away from it.
I was actually going to talk about an example of Saint Therese of Lisieux, who and this is where you see like where there's a good, you could, and this is obviously in spiritual direction or like kind of in talking with a friend, we could really like kind of parse this out. But like Saint Therese of Lisieux wanted to be a missionary. She wanted to be a missionary at the farthest reaches of like the world and go preach the gospel to people who had never heard the gospel. But God was calling her to be a religious sister in France, which is not the same. And, she mortified that desire, which arguably you could say that's a good thing. Let's say there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's actually, we need more vocation. So at this point we'd be like, please, like we have, but I think it was not in accordance with God's will for her life. So she was called to mortify that curiosity about what that life could look like for herself. And she combated that by developing the spirituality of the little way, recognizing she is a missionary of love in her own context amongst her religious sisters in her own community. And in prayer for everybody, which prayer touches everyone, no borders. So you can continue to pray for everyone in every place. And that prayer actually reaches the person who needs it most. That prayer is like, is a way to be a missionary. And so, it was, again, like it was the mortification of this desire, which again, we can have these desires that seem good to us. But does it take it away from the present moment? Kind of like in prayer, like we can be thinking about something at work that we need to get done. Is it bad to think about work? No. But is that what we're called to in the present moment? Is that God's will for us here in prayer? It is not. We can say that. And so I think that's just a good example, like that practical love in the moment, the small little things, having details that we're attentive to is a way to combat this like curiosity that can just drive us away from God's will for our lives.
Yeah, I like that. That means that the vain things at the end of this verse, why do the people meditate on vain things? Vain things is not little things or far things. It's not close things and big things. It's what's connected to God's will.
Yeah, what's not yet.
Yeah, and both of you are making me think about sorry, just got distracted here. Thinking about our Lord, right? And he was so concentrated in his um his apostolic and redemptive life on earth. He's very concentrated in a very small part of the world, in the Middle East, in Israel, with like a few men by his side, really helping them. He did not get distracted. He did not you know, start thinking about other things, and just like focus very much on just his relationship with the Father, and then like the immediate like mission in front of him, and like that is just like so cool. So, uh, uh, again, like all this and more in future episodes.
Why this tumult among nations, among peoples this useless murmuring? They arise, the kings of the earth. Princes plot against the Lord and his anointed. Come, let us break their fetters. Come, let us cast off their yoke. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord is laughing them to scorn. Then he will speak in his anger. His rage will strike them with terror. It is I who have set up my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will announce the decree of the Lord. The Lord said to me, "You are my son. It is I who have begotten you this day. Ask, and I shall bequeath to you the nations. Put the ends of the earth in your possession. With a rod of iron you will break them, shatter them like a potter's jar. Now, O kings, understand. Take warning, rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with awe and trembling. Pay him your homage, lest he be angry and you perish, for suddenly his anger will blaze. Blessed are they who put their trust in God."
Hey, this is Jake. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Sons and Kings, the Psalm 2 show. We're really glad that you joined us today. We hope you got something out of it. And if you did, I'd love to invite you to share with a friend, or even just like or subscribe to the platform. It really helps us to get the message out to more people, help more people with the show. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next episode.